Welcome to Toyota Time with Timmy the Toolman and Sean. What we're going to do today is we are going to do a brake bleed of Sean's truck. Sean has a 2002 with a 98 rear end, so that doesn't really make a difference because we're still going to use the same process with the 01 and 02 year 4Runners. You have to have the key on to power up the brake booster so you can properly bleed the rear brakes. And if you have a year from 96 to 2000, you don't need to do that because you don't have a brake booster. What we're going to do today is start with the right rear tire and bleed the brakes from the furthest point from the master cylinder, working our way up. So it'll be right rear, right front, left front. To start off with, what we're going to try to do is get some of the old fluid out of the master cylinder first. And so we're just going to suck some of it out, some of the old fluid. We're not going to drain it all the way down because we don't want to get any air into the master cylinder. If we get air into the master cylinder, then we got to bleed the master cylinder. So we want to avoid that. So we're just going to suck as much as we safely can out without draining it all the way, replace it with new fluid, and then we're going to start the brake bleeding. The way the process is going to work is I'm going to be under the truck bleeding each of the wheel cylinders while Sean's inside the cab pumping the brakes for me and holding it. What we're going to do first is show you some of the stuff we're going to use. I'm going to use this clear plastic tubing. We got it from O'Reilly's. The inner diameter of this is 1/4 inch. Checked it out already, and this fits over the bleeding nipple really nice. Get a 1/4 inch inner diameter tubing, and they call this fuel tubing. It was like $4 at O'Reilly's. Prime line. Okay? You need something to catch the fluid, so I'm just going to use this thing. You could use anything. You could use a piece of Tupperware, a water bottle, whatever floats your boat, just to catch the old fluid. And then the size of the bleeding nipple is a 10 millimeter. So I got some different wrenches, like a flare nut wrench, a gear wrench, ratcheting wrench, and just a standard one. I'm going to see which one is going to work the best once I get underneath there. You need some .3 brake fluid. So we found this at O'Reilly's. It's a high temperature synthetic and 32 fluid ounces. We're hoping that's going to be plenty to completely bleed all the brakes and get the old fluid out. As a reference, we're using my 2000 Toyota factory service manual. This explains all the steps. And basically it says fill the brake reservoir with brake fluid, so it's already filled. We're going to drain it a little bit first and then top it off. And then it says in here that you pump the brakes. So right here it says bleed air of the rear brake first. If front brake is bled first, rear brake air cannot be bled. So you slowly depress the brake pedal several times. So that's what Sean's going to do. He's going to pump the brakes for me. And then while he's pumping the brakes, he's then going to hold pressure on the pedal while I loosen the fitting and bleed fluid out. When the pedal is going to drop to the floor on him, he's going to hold it there and wait for me to tell him to release. So as the pedal drops to the floor, he's going to hold it there. I'm going to tighten the fitting. He's going to release and repeat the process till we get clean fluid coming out of that wheel cylinder. Once I'm satisfied with the right rear, I'm going to move to the left rear and do the same thing. So that's our procedure. I'm going to use this little syringe to take some of the old fluid out of the master cylinder. You could do the same thing with a turkey baster, but I'm just going to use this little 20 millimeter syringe to draw some of the fluid out. So pretty much that's what we need. You need fluid, something to catch the fluid, some tubing, the right size wrench, and something to draw some old fluid out of the master cylinder. So here we go. We're going to get going with the first step of taking some of the old fluid out of the master cylinder. Okay, so we're going to, like I said, we're going to drain some of the old fluid out. I'm just going to draw fluid into here and then carefully put it in here. We have fender covers. Brake fluid is really bad for paint, so don't get it on your paints. If you don't have like these fender covers, maybe get a towel or something. You want to avoid getting this stuff on your paint at all costs. It doesn't look that dirty. I'm going to bring it down to the minimum. We'll start there just to play it safe. I think let's call it good. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna, I drained it down, I suctioned out to the minimum in the master cylinder, minimum line, and then I'm gonna top it off. We're just using a funnel so we don't make a mess. It's hard to see, but the max line is right here. Okay, Very important when you're doing this process, don't forget to keep on topping off your master cylinder. So as you bleed fluid out of the wheel cylinders, stop every once in a while, get back out from under the truck or have your buddy that's doing the brake pumping to check what the level is. If you drain your master cylinder all the way, now you're going to be sucking air and now you're going to have to bleed your master cylinder. So the key is to keep this thing topped off. I don't know if you can get away with bleeding one complete wheel without topping it off. So we're going to bleed a few times and then I'm just going to ask Sean while I'm underneath the truck to check to make sure that it hasn't bled down too low. You want to keep an eye on that. Keep on adding fluid, top 3 brake fluid, so you don't suck air into your master cylinder. All right? So here's your bleeder right here. This is your brake line going into your wheel cylinder. The one right above it is the bleeder. You might have these little rubber caps that kind of keep the bleeder clean. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my wrench on here first. So I got that on there. I'm going to put the bleeder tube on there. So now I won't make a mess. And then I'll have this going into this container. Sean is currently in the truck. He's got the ignition key to the on position, so the brake booster is on. He's going to pump the brakes a few times. So go ahead, Sean, and pump the brakes a few times. Okay, hold pressure. Okay, the gear wrench is not the way to go because you can loosen it, but then when you want to tighten it, you have to flip it, and now the hose is in the way. Just have like a flare nut wrench or a regular 10mm wrench so you can tighten and loosen it. So I broke it free. Pump it up a few times and hold pressure. Okay, hold pressure. Okay, so when the pedal goes to the floor, hold it there until I tell you to release, okay? Yeah. Release. Pump it up again. Okay, hold pressure. Hold. Pump it up again. Okay, hold pressure. One more time. What I just did is I sucked some of the new brake fluid out of the new container to kind of get an idea of what the color of the new stuff looks like, so I kind of know I'm done at that wheel cylinder. So it looks fairly clear, just a slight like yellow tint to it. So this stuff coming out almost has a like a olive green color to it. So I don't know if that was just the color of the old fluid or not, but I'm going to double check the master cylinder and see what it's looking like so we're not going too low. Pump it up and hold it. Release. Pump it up. Go ahead and pump it up again. Okay, release, pump it up again. Okay, release. Okay, we're now on the left rear. Sean has pumped it up and he's holding it. Release and pump it up again. Do it again. That's coming out as clean as the other side, so we're good on the left rear. Now we're going to move to the front. So now I'm on the right front, the passenger side front. And so Sean's going to again do the same procedure. Go ahead and pump it up, Sean, and hold. Open it up. Okay, pump it up again. Okay, pump it up again. One more time. Okay, that's good. It's looking pretty clean already. I think most of the dirty fluid made its way out the back rear. This stuff is already coming out pretty clean. Just remember, this is just another reminder that keep on topping it off. This is the max line, so I'm not letting it get anywhere close to the minimum. I'm bleeding a little bit, then filling it back up. This way you don't make the mistake and drain it all out and then get air into your master cylinder. This is important. This is where you'll cause yourself more work if you forget this step. We're now on the last wheel, so we're on the driver's side front. Go ahead and pump it up, Sean, and hold.
Do it again. 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 Hey, no, I just topped it off. It's good. Go ahead. It should be fine. And I think we're good. Let's do it one more time. Let's call it good.
We're trying to give you a comparison here. So this is fluid that I drew right out of the brand new container. So like I said, it has just like a slight yellow tinge to it. Now we'll draw some the old fluid into it and we'll make a comparison. You can see now it's got a much darker color, kind of like a yellowish green. It was definitely older fluid. If you have like spongy brakes, what we were doing today is basically renewing the brake fluid. We weren't necessarily bleeding the brakes to get air out of the system. Our purpose was to renew the fluid so he'd have new brake fluid in his system, like a brake fluid flush. But if you were having problems with a soft brake pedal and you suspect you have air in the lines, what you're doing at each cylinder, each wheel, is you're looking for air bubbles evacuating through the tube. Once you have a steady stream of fluid and no air bubbles, then you could stop at that wheel and go on to the next one. So you're basically bleeding every wheel cylinder to where the bubbles come out and you have a steady stream of fluid. That lets you know that you're done at each wheel cylinder. That's how you would bleed the brakes if you have air in your system. After you're all done, top your brake fluid off to the max line. And we're at the max. The max is right here, right at the top of my finger. So we've now topped it off and he should be ready to go. The final step is take it for a test drive, and don't immediately go out on the freeway or somewhere where you're going to be going fast speeds. Test it out in your neighborhood, in residential streets, preferably away from kids, and test your brakes. Make sure that everything's working properly before you head down a steep grade or you're going at freeway speeds and find out your brakes are not cutting it. So Sean's going to get in his truck, he's going to drive around my neighborhood and just make sure that his brakes are acting properly. He's going to make sure it's not pulling one way or the other, that the pedal feels firm, and that he's got good brake power. You might be wondering, why would you want to do this? Well, number one, if you just want to renew your brake fluid, this is how you would flush out the brake fluid and get clean brake fluid coming to every wheel cylinder. Another reason is maybe you put new brake calipers. Maybe you did the Tundra brake upgrade for the front of your rig, and now you have to bleed the brakes because you actually disconnected lines to put new calipers on. So that's another reason. So this is basically a way you could either flush your brake fluid system or you can bleed the brake system of any air in the lines. So thanks for watching. I'm Timmy the Toolman, that is Sean, and we hope you learned something. If you have any questions, just comment. That's it. Take care.